And I'm sure we'll get snow any second. Who knows?
Hello, hello, everyone.
The anchors are
How you doing,
here.
Anthony?
Yay.
Good.
Andy, welcome. It's so nice to have you here. I think between you and me, Anthony, we probably know everyone on this tasting tonight.
I think so. Nice mix of Chicago people, Detroit family,
Team members.
team members.
Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes,
All
we
right.
are. We had drinks with Mickey Boxed on Tuesday.
We had lunch with Mickey today.
Today.
Oh, my goodness.
He's doing great.
That's great. I know you went to the Charleston Grill.
Yep.
Oh,
And you met Andrew?
Yeah.
Yes, we
did.
Yeah, he spoke well about you.
Oh yeah, he took great care of us.
I know. He said he had a nice time with you and Sarah.
Yep.
okay. I'm gonna have a little sip of wine and then we'll start.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
This is, we
Hey.
have,
Hi, Eric. Hi,
Yeah.
Scott. Dave Smith, good to see you.
yes. Scott Shepherd, it's good to see you. The
Yeah.
Morocks
Good to
are
see
in
you
the
too.
house.
Anthony, you look a lot like I remember, except your face is a little furrier.
Yeah, it comes and goes. Give me a couple days. It'll be a lot furrier.
The Tarnowski family is in the house, yay. It's,
Hey, Scott.
okay, I think what we should do is go ahead and start, Anthony. So I'm gonna take the ball just for a few minutes and then you can run with it. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
And I'll try to keep an eye on the waiting room so nobody's, waiting to get in, but what a great turnout to welcome Anthony as Plum Market's very first director of wine, because up till now, which you may or may not know, yes, we're applauding. Mark Jonah, who's a co-owner along with his brother Matt, has been effectively the director of wine for Plum Market. But now that we are expanding, as you all know, with 4 stores in Michigan, 1 in Chicago, soon, DC, LA. The world's our cherry. You can talk about it, Anthony. You probably know better than the rest of the team members. It became obvious that we needed somebody who can help us expand, keep our wine culture consistent, because we're very proud of the intimacy in each neighborhood, but also the thumbprint of Plum Market representing, premium national brands. And Anthony adores wine. He's intimate with the retail wine business, and he is a super fine team player. I can attest to this because I've known him for over 10 years. We worked together when he became the wine team leader of West Bloomfield, and then moved to Chicago to help open our store in Old Town in 2013. He sort of left us for a short period of time to work for Winebow Distributing, but he called on Plum Market. So I don't think there was any sort of separation there, certainly not a divorce. And we're so happy to welcome him and his beloved wife, Sarah, back to Michigan. I'm sure their family is even happier to have them here. And what we're going to do tonight is taste 6 wines, which is more than we usually taste by a long shot. But I put them all both in the waiting room and in the meeting room. So you should see them. 4 of them are officially for Michigan. 2 of them are officially for Chicago. Frankly, all of the wines are probably gettable in both markets, but sometimes by special order. So Anthony picked out wines that speak to him personally, and we went with wines that were conveniently in the stores. Thank you for doing that, Anthony. So any housekeeping? I don't think so, other than to say Anthony loves interaction. So, you're all beautifully well-mannered and keeping yourselves muted. But if you feel inspired to speak up, interrupt, opine, disagree, please do. If not, we can do that at the end. This is going to take a little over an hour with by anybody's measure with 6 wines, and I will try to keep us on track. But we want to hear what's in Anthony's head and heart. We have several of Plum team members on tonight. We've got Rod Johnson and Denny Walsh, who are the beverage coordinators for Oakland County and Ann Arbor. Yay! We've got Phil Lanuti and Mike Pfeiffer from the Ann Arbor West store. We've got, who am I missing? Oh, I know we have both Jeff and Joanna from Chicago who are running around the store and have this up on the store computer at the same time. So they may not jump in. And who knows who else will join us. So that said, I am, by the way, officially the director of events for Plum Market. You know me in that incarnation because that's where we always see each other in person until the 18 months of 2020 started. And hopefully we're going to start our in-person events again in 2022 first quarter. We made the decision not to do that for the rest of this year, but I'll tell you at the end of this tasting what you can look forward to. So that's
Madeline,
enough of me.
Madeline?
Yes, Norm.
Is it really Anthony? Because I remember him as being clean shaven.
I promise you it's Anthony.
I am a
Not his
chameleon,
cousin.
Norman.
But yeah.
Oh, you also lost some hair on top.
No,
Little bit.
no, you have not. I don't believe that. If you want to just see Anthony's beautiful face and assess both his head and his facial hair, you can choose a speaker view. I'm going to put some, per usual, some lovely slides for us to stare at. But Anthony, all of us, Michigan, Chicago, and parts unknown, welcome you to the Plum Market family. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madeline, I'd also like to chime in. This is Rod. I've been with Plum Market actually longer than Anthony, and I'd like to officially welcome you aboard. As I said, we had a meeting early today, and I said, Mark Jonas has been kind of like the guy that oversees all, and those are big shoes to fill. But I think we could not have done better than to bring you aboard you have the Plum DNA, but you have your own sort of wine geeky way of looking at things that I think we need that. And most of all, you have that kind of high-techy background that you can bring us even more forward to the present and the future. So I think we're in great hands. The transition should be seamless. So all of those out there think, well, how's it going to be? This is the best guy we can pick here. Welcome aboard.
Beautifully said, Rod. And you know what
Thank
the
you, Rod.
subtext is to that, Anthony? If it's not seamless, guess whose fault it is? Because anybody who holds the word director, man.
I am the scapegoat for everything.
No, it doesn't work that way with this family. We've got your back in spades. Everyone, if anyone wants to comment and it feels too shy to unmute, there's a chat going on already. So we can't wait to hear what's near and dear to your heart, Anthony. What are you feeling and thinking at this moment?
Well, thank you for the kind introduction and welcome, Madeline and Rod. Thank you to the Plum team for welcoming me back on. The last 3 weeks of working with Plum have been fantastic to get back in, and my time away has taught me a new perspective. It's really cool to see everyone here. A lot of people that I've known for over 10 years, starting back in the West Bloomfield store, and then connecting that with people from the Chicago store and people that I've worked with over the years that have been colleagues and also customers when I was on the other side. So this is very special to see everyone here because, wine without people and wine without discussion is just drinking. So, and to Madeline's point, I would like to encourage a spirited discussion. So feel free to chime in, enjoy yourselves, because that's what wine is about, pleasure and enjoyment. And while we may sometimes drink some expensive bottles of wine as wine professionals, it's often the very value-oriented wines that speak to us. And that's really what tonight is about. It's about the quality and the families that make things and these special connections that we have. So I've chosen a few wines. I tried to stick to wineries that I had visited and also things that I think are part of sort of my DNA, and not just in a wine sense, in a vacuum, because wine is about more than wine. Wine is about history and culture and people and nature and food and all of these things. And that's, I think, why all of us are on this call, and that's what sort of ties us together. So if Madeline didn't say, but I've been basically in the wine business since I was a child, and that's all I've ever done in my life. So
Have you been in it longer than Mark claims? He was 14 when he started tasting. How about you?
13.
There you go. You got him beat.
And I can attest to that.
Okay, good to know.
So
You're
It's, you
speaking
know,
of value, Anthony.
yeah.
And were you here? Did you go here?
I have not been to this producer. I think this is the only one that I have not visited, but I wanted to do this because one of my favorite conversations is about lesser known Italian white grapes. And Verdicchio, I would consider to be one of the most important white grapes of Italy. So this is from an area called Castelli di Jesi, and this is in the Marche in central Italy on the Adriatic coast.
Oh, here's
And
Madeline having fun. Wait a
This
minute. There
unique
we go.
Verdicchio grape can be inexpensive like this one, or kind of age-worthy as well.
Do you remember
But-
when we opened Old Town, Anthony? We selected a Verdicchio that had bottle age and was really heroic.
Oh yeah, you can get Verdicchio
Yeah.
with 20 years of age and they're phenomenal. And these wines are so undervalued because most people in the United States don't really know what they are. But I have visited this area. And I like anything that Kermit Lynch brings in. As you'll notice, a few of the wines are from Kermit Lynch. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this is like a $13, $14 white wine from Italy. And it just goes into that idea that wine is about sharing it with each other, that European sensibility of sitting down at the table with friends and family. Then it doesn't matter if it's a $10 wine or a $100 wine. That's not really what it's about. Sometimes I like to say, when wine is really good, you don't talk about it at all, right? Because it just promotes conversation about life and it allows you to connect.
I got to tell you, I'm tasting it because I hadn't had it before. And sommeliers have this maddening term they use, and I'm including all of us wine nerds. We talk about this rocky minerality. What the hell are we talking about? But this has it. It's like a salty sea spray characteristic on the nose and on the palate, and it's savory. It's the damnedest thing. It speaks of, rocky terroir, but at the same time, it's like somebody squeezed lemon on a rock. It's so cool.
Well, keep this in mind. Somebody said this to me once, and it always resonated. Italian food and culture is based on acid and bitter. If you think about everything, it's tomatoes and espresso and bitter herbs and nuts and things like that. So the wines complement that. The wines usually have a bitterness and a savory component as well, and quite acidic.
So as the blush of summer goes away, oh, wait a minute, where are you here? Were you there? Were you?
Oh yeah, so this is,
the
we
Marche?
went to the Marche
Mhm.
and they threw us this huge party. They had a band, they had a photographer. It was wild because the Marche is kind of an obscure place. And it was the first time in 20 years that a group of American retailers or buyers had ever visited them. So it was very special that we had visited.
How cool is that? And you will see more tables as we go along, but I love this wine. Thank you for picking it out. It's eminently accessible, right under $15. And he did say Italian wine is based on acidity. Oh, and bitterness, not
I said
myth.
acid and bitter,
And bitter, right.
agrodolce, bittersweet. But one more thing about Verdicchio that I always like to keep in context. Verdicchio, Fiano, and Soave, I think, are the most important Italian white wines, and often we think of Pinot Grigio. But one thing we like to say about Pinot Grigio is that Pinot Grigio is made by people who speak German for people who speak English, because it's made basically on the German border by Germans. So it's not really what you think of when you think of Italy and you think of the Amalfi Coast. They're not drinking Pinot Grigio.
I'd also like to add, this is Rod chiming in.
Mhm.
We're in October, ends in an R, and that means it's an oyster month. Verdicchio, especially this Verdicchio, is an absolute perfect wine to go with oysters. So I encourage everybody to do that. That minerality and the oysters and the wine just is, it's a perfect match.
You don't even need to squeeze lemon on the damn thing. I didn't know
No.
that October is oyster month.
Any
Any
month with
month that
R.
ends in an R, yeah.
Oh,
Madeline
All
hates
right.
oysters. I think I made her eat her first oyster once.
you did. My
She's-
first and last oyster.
Yeah.
I gave it a try.
yeah.
I couldn't get past the texture,
You
but I
needed
tried.
you needed the Verdicchio with it.
I needed the Verdicchio. I didn't have the Verdicchio. So everybody, we are going to taste two wines actually side by side next, because we've got, both of them are Bandol rosés. The folks in Michigan, if you purchase the rosé, have the Gros Noret, and the folks in Chicago have the venerable Tempier Bandol. Both of them are 2020s. And Anthony, why is this category near and dear to your heart? Because this is premium rosé by anybody's measure.
Well, I really like the reds too, I will add.
Mhm.
I just think the story, and I think I got into wine or the mythology of wine through the importer Kermit Lynch, who wrote a book about his wine travels on the wine route. And really, Kermit discovered a lot of these off the beaten path regions in the late 70s, because, you know, in the late 70s, early 80s, no one knew what Bandol was. No one even really knew what Chateauneuf-du-Pape was. No one knew what Sancerre was. No one knew what rosé was. So this whole idea of wine that all of us sitting here really know is very new. And Kermit really discovered a lot of these places for the American market. And what he discovered was that there was a real charm and sort of honest rusticity to these wines in these places. And, you know, if you've never been to the south of France, it's one of the most magical places ever.
Mhm.
And Bandol is this old little appellation. You can see it down on the map near Marseille in southern France. So
Mhm.
it's an old port town that's been active for probably over 1,000 years. And it's just this magical place right on the Mediterranean. And you have vineyards built into the cliffs nearby.
These are all of
And-
Anthony's pictures, with the exception of two, by the way. So he was kind enough to dig them up from his trip, and you can be very jealous when
The
when you see
wines
where
are
he's having
just
lunch.
the wines are very honest. So part of two, I love cooking, so I'll always include photos of food. And at the famed Domaine Tempier, they make legendary food. And the matriarch of the estate, Lulu Perrault, who passed away, I think this year at the age of 102, was a very important figure in wine and food. And she was basically the influence on Alice Waters to create Chez Panisse.
Didn't Alice go and hang out with, and this is Lou.
Oh, they
To
go,
find out-
I mean, Alice
Yeah.
was there probably every year for months on end. So that's what sort of started this new food movement in the United States in the late 70s as well. Domaine Tempier was the first by the glass rosé at Chez Panisse. So this sort of started what we know of being this wine culture in our country now. And also a lot of that food stems from there. This is a traditional artichoke and shrimp stew from the Mediterranean. And also I'm also obsessed with Richard Olney, who is a famous chef and writer, and he lived near Domaine Tempier and wrote a lot about food, about the food at the estate. So it's a very kind of, it's a magical place. Let's just say that.
So
So
much
the-
for artichokes and wine not going together, because I think this dish and that rosé have got to be completely dovetailed. I bet they're killer. But
Yeah.
you didn't have, you had 2 Magnums, 02 and 99 when you were there for.
Oh, we had a
the
lot of
meal?
magnums. Many
Ma-
magnums.
Madeline, I like the picture of the vines clinging to the mountainside.
There they are. Isn't that gorgeous?
Amazing. I'm surprised they don't fall down.
And Anthony, do you remember Norman, Robin Lewis? Well,
Of
we
course.
Yes, and they have been incredibly faithful through the 18 months of 2020, I think. I don't think you've missed maybe just one because you were out of town, but I give you a big hug for keeping us going with familiar, loving faces.
Norman, are you
And-
still doing the powerlifting?
I couldn't live without it.
And you've got rosé in your glass.
So
Whoopee.
these wines, yeah, these are considered probably the best rosés in the world. And I think it's because of this unique area where they have a lot of sunshine, but it gets cool at night. It's based on a grape called Mourvedre, which is pretty rich. But there's this old saying that Mourvedre needs to see the sea. And I think that by being this close to the Mediterranean, it has a cooling influence and it brings a freshness to the wines. And these wines usually are aged a bit longer in cask. And that also allows them to be much more age-worthy and very textural. So this is made very much differently than an inexpensive rosé.
I've got the Noré in my glass, and it's wonderful. It's got a little bit of that salinity that the Verdicchio had. It's got a little bit of tannin. You know, you can feel the texture on your palate change. It's lifted and refreshing, but it's got warmth too. I mean, it's a rich wine. It can handle whatever you throw at it. And I haven't had Tempier in a long time. Can you speak to that rosé specifically?
Yeah, I think, well, they were the ones that really put it on the map. I think that, and I think that they put rosé on the map in general. That one to me is a little bit more austere than the Grand Noré, but they are within a stone's throw of each other. They're friends, they all hang out. So they're all part of the same scene.
And the original owner, right? Well, the one who took it over with Lulu, his wife, Lucien, he's called the godfather of Bandol. He pretty much, established the AOC, which
He
is
founded, basically, Lulu's parents gave them a home when they married in 1935. And in the cellar, they found ancient bottles. And they figured out that these bottles were based on Mourvedre, and they reestablished the appellation.
And with all this talk about Tempier, if any of you are feeling like stepchildren because you've got the Grand Noré, I have to tell you, Kermit speaks in glowing terms about this younger estate, and evidently the owner winemaker Alain, he calls him a Provençal Hercules. He's evidently
Oh yeah, he's a beast. He was a former boxer, and he doesn't speak a lot because he just goes hunting. He just wants to be out in the wilderness.
You took this also, didn't you? Wow.
I did, yeah. That's a photo nearby. And Lulu was said to have gone down to the beach and gone swimming every day until she was close to 100.
All righty, we are pivoting
All right.
big time to red wine, and we've both been here, right, Anthony?
We have, yeah.
Yeah, I adore
this-
this estate.
This is in Chianti Classico, and another one of my favorite wines is Chianti Classico. And also, I think Chianti gets a bad rap. I think a lot of people think that it's still, the basket bottles and inexpensive. And these are usually the regions that we like to focus on because that's where the best value is. These are the most overachieving producers that are trying to reestablish the name of their region. So Chianti right now, for me, is just amazing. For $25, you can find wines that'll age in your cellar for 20 years. So Palacino is a great estate. They're organic. They are in Chianti Classico in a little sub-region called Gaiole. And I mean, this wine's like under $15. And
No, it's absurd, but I mean,
And
even their Grosso Sanese, their Reserva level is just staggering. I mean, I still think that in a bad day, it's under 40. And, you know, when I was there, I was lucky enough to get an older vintage, and it was just perfect Sangiovese. Okay, what are we staring at here, Anthony? This looks.
so when we were in Tuscany, this was some sort of parade. I think it was something religious in Siena. It was just a cool picture from Siena.
This is Siena too. Isn't this where they have the race?
Yeah, that's where they do the horse race.
No, I think it's a mass circumcision.
Well, we'll hold that really cheerful thought, Norm. This, by the way, is admittedly not Chianti, but what are we staring at, Anthony?
Yeah, this was in Brunello on this trip. We were in Chianti, or we were in Tuscany for a few days, and Chianti is nearby Brunello. So this was just kind of a magical day in Brunello, and I love gardening, and I was admiring this beautiful garden next to the vineyard, and then we ate a beautiful meal from this garden.
This guy, did you end up meeting him? The father,
I don't know.
father-son team?
I was half drunk the whole time.
I was not, because I can't handle alcohol, as you know. So I will speak to this guy if you don't mind. There's a father-son team, and they use very traditional methods, except when Eduardo, the son, started getting older and wanted to play, his father let him purchase an amphora and a cement egg, and he does some pretty whimsical experimental stuff, including something he calls azzero, which means zero sulfur. And when he was talking about these two containers, he smiled and said they were very expensive. And they referred to this as the Mr. Peanut label before they modernized it. And these are, you know, I think maybe their grandfather put these in cask and sealed them with cement. They're Caratelli of Vinsanto that aren't ready to rock and roll yet. But I'm curious how you would describe this, Anthony. This wine is under $15, and to me, it's perfect Sangiovese. It's got that balance between acidity and tannin. The color is deep, and I think it can handle any food you throw at it. I really think there's it's a great example of how the least expensive wine from a great producer is its flagship, actually.
Absolutely. And what I love about Sangiovese is this tart red fruit, tart cherry quality, and also it can be very floral. I always love very floral red wines, especially. And I always think sometimes that Sangiovese is everything Pinot Noir wants to be for a lot less money. Like, it's more floral, like it's more fruit driven. You know, if you spend $50 on a bottle of Burgundy, you're probably going to be disappointed. It's just the way Burgundy is. But
it's also easier to grow. I mean, we have to give, you know.
Sure, but just from a consumer standpoint, you know.
True. No, you're dead correct. I know.
Whereas you buy a Sangiovese and you get everything you want. I get everything I want from the Burgundy. I get it from Sangio at half the price.
Anybody sipping on this? You want to pipe up and tell us how it tastes to you, or if you've had it in the past, or maybe their Chianti Reserva, the Grosso Sanese. You're all being very restrained and elegant. You need to drink more wine.
Madeline, I'm finding this very delicious, very smooth. I just want to know, Anthony, what food pairings would you recommend? You said it goes with everything, but can you be a little bit more specific?
I think the classic pairing would be meat, right? In Tuscany, they have a special steak from the white cows, the Chianina. But this being an entry-level wine, I think it would go with any meat. It would even go with fish.
But I think tomato-based
Yeah.
stuff, often tomato is just so tricky. Thank you for speaking up, Elaine. It's always a delight to see you. But I find tomato has that sort of sweet tart character that can flatten a lot of reds.
Yeah.
And I think this wine is perfect for it. It'll play to the acid in the tomato. That illusion of like dried cherries will play to the sweetness. So, if you want to pull out your fresh tomato sauce on any damn thing, here you go.
That's a good call. That's a good call. I would say maybe not things that are too spicy or sweet, because it's very savory and acidic. It works well with savory things.
Anthony, I have a question.
Sure.
Is this Rosso from Palazzino 100% Sangiovese, or is there a little any Cabernet Merlot blended in?
That's a great question. Madeline and I were trying to figure that out, and we could not come
No
to any
Cabernet
conclusive
Merlot. No
answer.
Cabernet Merlot. That I can say, but I don't know if they use Canaiolo or, any of the-
95%, it's 95% Sangiovese, and I think the 5% is probably the Colorino. So there's no modernity to it. It's classic Chianti Classic.
The professor comes through. Thank you, Rod.
The professor.
Now we are, we're taking a little trip. We're big time pivoting, and this is accessible right now to the Chicago folk. We can possibly get it in Michigan, but why are we tasting this wine, Anthony, or at least talking about it? Because I don't have it in my glass.
Well, going into the whole Southern France thing, I think one of the first wines I ever really got into, especially on a budget, when I was probably in high school, was Côte de Rhône. Because you can just get tremendous amount of quality, not only quality, but I think that honestness where you get a wine made by a person, you get a wine made from a family in essentially their backyard. I'm not trying to bash domestic wine, but for under $20, you will not be finding a wine from the United States that is really made by a family. Whereas
But right
France,
before we got on, you talked about the difference between Chateau de Saint-Côme and Saint-Côme. Do you mind speaking to that? Just because people might see both in either market.
yeah. So the difference you'd see here, if it just says Saint-Côme, it means that they are purchasing grapes, or what they would call a négociant. But if it says Chateau de Saint-Côme, that means that it is all estate. So this is their entry level to all estate. They make an entry level Côte de Rhône that is not all estate. It's very good. This is a step up, and they are a Gigondas producer. And to me, this drink's as good as a lot of people's Gigondas.
And this guy is like the man right now, Louis Barruol. Hold on, this might take me a second to start it. Sometimes I have a hard time starting these. Hold the boat. So here we go. Yay. So we're going to the Southern Rhône, but he has grapes planted in the communes of Plum de Dieu and also Queyron. And you can see Avignon down here. That's where Châteauneuf-du-Pape is based. And let's see, here we go. Here, this is one of Fernando Batata's maps, Anthony. He does such a nice job because you can see that Fernando is a master sommelier who just produces killer maps. So there's Avignon, there's Châteauneuf-du-Pape, the seat of the Pope's new castle, and there's Gigondas to the northeast. And actually this guy, Barruol, just released single vineyards from this area called Ben Sobra, much smaller than Gigondas, right up against the Alps. So he's really lauded for quality. There he is with his dog.
And the terroir is very different. And we'll talk about that when we get to Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but a lot of people will be familiar with the big galets stones in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And in Gigondas, it is more limestone. So it's quite different.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to show this picture because he talked a lot about his dad who passed away before he could see what he called the monade or the soul of Van Sobra, because he wanted his father's take on the spirit of the place. But once he started making wine there, he figured it was good enough that his dad would be happy. And I threw this in here because a lot of the Rhone producers talk about the Dentelle de Montmirail rye, the lace of these hilltops, limestone, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And this is St. Combs Chapel and the surrounding area. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, because the property goes back, I think,
Mhm.
500-600 years.
It's been in their family since the 1500s. Bravo, bang on the money, but they didn't start putting their name on the label until recent memory. So if you see St. Combe or you see Louis Barruol, know this, you ain't taking a chance, correct?
Yeah. And what I also love about that wine is that there's some winemaking techniques that I'm very fond of. First of all, it's organically grown. It's native. They only use native yeast for fermentation. It's whole cluster. So most red wine is destemmed, but this is where they ferment it with the clusters, and it forms, I think, a different aromatic profile of the wine. And it's unfined and unfiltered. So
no, and he's passionate about those. Thank you for bringing those points up, because the whole cluster especially will add aromatics, but it also will add tannin. So, it needs to be managed. But, I'm channeling St. Gaume Côte du Rhône, but per my memory, it's got, the Syrah comes through with a little bit of white pepper, and it's got an elegance and a crisp acidity to it. And it doesn't come off by any definition overripe. Would you agree with that, Anthony?
I would.
Cool. So now we're going to an estate where you have harvested or worked the fields, right?
Yep. So going along with Côte du Rhône, I was always very much a fan of the wines of Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And I think that there's a lot to enjoy. Whenever I'm selling wine, whether in a restaurant or in a store, Châteauneuf is usually my bridge wine from domestic wine to French wine, because it is very ripe and accessible, but it's has a lot of European or French character as well. So I think it's a nice introduction to a European style wine. And I was lucky enough to go and harvest there in 2012. I stayed with the Bacchus family and Charlotte Bacchus, who some of you probably know because she's done a lot of events in Michigan, and had an amazing time.
Wasn't Michigan her first American market?
Yes,
her
I
first
remember. I
US
met her
market.
the same day that Chip Delsner met her.
The importer, no kidding. You guys were
Yeah.
at the same tasting?
Because she was working the area. She had just had her kids, and I think, they needed to get the winery going. And so she started working the global market, and she was at a fair looking for distribution.
And Chip recognized the quality in the glass.
Yep. And so I asked her if I could come work. She said, of course. So this winery always is very near and dear to my heart, and my experience there as well.
I threw this up here because you want to talk about Courtesan, because it's a different terroir, isn't it? This is where she's located and her vineyards are located.
Yeah. So, well, Châteauneuf's a pretty big place.
Mhm.
The quality is very high. So trying to look. Yeah, they are in Courtesan. And there's a lot of mixture of different soils and aspects. And I think the most famous one, and you'll see from some of my photos, are these big, what they call pudding stones, or in French,
Mhm.
galets. And sometimes the vineyards are all galets, but it's not always like that. And Chateau de la Fondelue is on a sandier parcel, and they're higher elevation and they're north facing. So their grapes tend to harvest a lot later than other people because they need to really get that ripeness. It takes longer. And the wines are much lighter and more elegant than a lot of other Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I really think of them. I just think of them as elegant. By the way, this is not, this is the new Chateau of the Pope. It's remains,
Yep.
or at least part of it. I wanted to show that. What is this glorious view? This is.
So that's the view from the chateau out into the vineyards.
And oh, there she is, the irrepressible Anne Charlotte, who adores Metro Detroit, right?
Yep.
She is a party of a human being. Oh, and this was, you found this this cool little video. So what are we staring at here? This is
So
a
that's the wolf, because
The Lou.
Fondaloo
yes.
is the fountain of the wolf. So the legend is that the wolf came down from the mountains to drink.
And here we go. I'm just absurdly pleased that I was able to copy
The
and
Loup
paste this.
Garou, right, Uncle Norm?
That's exactly right.
They live in that chateau, Anthony?
No. Her
That's
mother
just
lives
the-
there. So what's unique is another famous estate, Chateau Vue Telegraph, which is a Kermit Lynch estate, is right next door, and the soils are completely different because Vue Telegraph is all the stones and Fondaloo is sand. So I think my next photo will show you Vue Telegraph and how different it is.
So what part, at what part in the season were you working? Were you harvesting?
Yeah, I was there. Well, I worked in the vineyards for, I think, 2 days, and it was back-breaking work. And they said, okay, you're done. Just come in the cellar with us. And so I was just doing all the pump overs and a lot of winemaking.
Mhm.
But it was cool. So that's Vue Telegraph, and you can see the sites there.
The pudding
But I
stones,
remember
yeah.
when I got there, I quickly realized that I had only tasted finished wine. And that when you taste grapes on the vine and when you taste fermenting wine, it's completely different from what you're used to. And you have no concept of the quality of a grape on the vine or the quality of something fermenting with what the end result will be. So I remember being in the vineyard, and the vineyard manager, he said, I said, which ones do I pick? How do I know what to pick? And he said, see this one? And he tastes it. He goes, this one is shit. Do you taste? And I said, and then he said, do you taste this one? And I said, and he goes, this one's good. He goes, can you tell the difference? And I said, no, they taste exactly the same. He just rolled his eyes. But by the end of it, because I was tasting wine every day, I was tasting grapes and I was tasting fermented juice that went from being grape juice to wine in a 3-week period. And I was tasting it every day. I started to understand sort of what they were looking at. And
That was revelatory. Wow.
Yeah.
Where are you standing? Are you on in Vue Telegraph here?
Yeah, that's Vue Telegraph.
That's a killer picture.
In the
Wow.
winter. That's a January photo for a different trip.
And this is the sand, right? That look at the
Yep.
difference of the soil. And this is from Anne Charlotte. I did an event with her some time ago. She couldn't remember if this was a Syrah or a Grenache vine, so we made a little joke of it.
I'm going to say it's Syrah.
Okay, what makes you think that?
The grapes look to be tighter clusters and darker.
Fair enough. Great. I'm
And I don't
wrong,
know,
too.
a gut feeling from being there.
The only time I've seen old vine Grenache in recent memory was in the Barossa Valley, and they kind of looked like this, and they were growing on sand, but I don't remember staring at the clusters. So,
Oh, I don't think I ever told you about this. Is kind of interesting. If you want to hear a funny Anne Charlotte story briefly.
yeah.
So when we were there, we had to wait for grapes to be ready. And Anne Charlotte says, well, we're not going to pick this weekend. Do you want to go up to Champagne and do a night harvest with my friends? And I said, sure. Who says no to that? So we drive 8 hours north to Champagne, and it's like 40 degrees. And we go and stay with her friend in Rance, drink a bunch of champagne. And then the next day we go out into like the middle of nowhere in Champagne. And they go to some farmhouse, and there's like all of their friends out there. And we just drank for like 24 hours straight. And then we went out in the vineyards that night. And that's when they do it. They start harvesting at night. I'm like, why at night? Is it better for the grapes or something like that? They just look at me, they're like, no, we just want to party all night. It's just what we do. And I mean, it was just like this kind of debaucherous night of picking lots of grapes and drinking probably the most wine I've ever consumed in my life.
So it was debauched and productive all at the same time.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It was great. It was great.
How is the wine drinking in your glass, Anthony? What's it tasting
It's great.
like tonight?
It's super pretty.
I think at least somebody else has got it. Denny, didn't you say you had it? I don't have it on me. I've had it more than once. I'm just wondering how it's drinking. It's what vintage is it? The 2018?
18.
But I'm always struck by how integrated her Chateauneuf du Pape is. You know, there's nothing clunky about it. It doesn't come across, you know, some CDPs, they're delish, they're impressive, but they're sort of a little bit almost muddy in their expression. And Fond du Loup is never like that. It's like lifted.
Very
pretty.
lifted.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's very bright, very forward.
She
Agreed.
makes a killer premium cuvee called Puy Roland, right?
She does.
Yeah, in case you see that in the stores, because we have it with some regularity. And is Fond du Loup's available in Chicago as well, isn't it? Though it
A
might
little
not
bit.
be
It
on the
does not have the
shelves.
presence of Michigan.
Mhm.
We also have, I'll just jump in since the HD's been there, I think they have a direct connection. So our pricing level in Michigan is actually quite a bit lower than the rest of the country. But
Yeah.
I really wanted to say is that I've always felt that Fond du Loup and Telegraph kind of went step in step, and that they're both some of the most structured, most claret-like Chateauneuf. So you get the elegance and richness, but not heaviness. And it was odd to, but a revelation to hear you say that one is sand, one is the Gallet. I think
Right.
they have the same approach, which is the free run, the gravity approach. And I think Telegraph started that. I think Fond du Loup picked up on that. But I think you end up with a nice, cleaner, a Chateauneuf that will age gracefully as opposed to heavily. So these are not just blockbuster wines. These are very intellectual wines. I think both the states speak to that. But they're beautiful wines. And I believe there's a white there at Fond du Loup that's also gorgeous.
Mhm.
There is.
Absolutely
there is.
gorgeous.
White Chateauneuf or Chateauneuf Blanc is, I think, less than 5% of the appellation's production. So pretty limited stuff.
You know, and if you run across Chateauneuf Blanc, you know, the few people who make it, it's that if you line up 12 of them, they're going to be very different. So there's no commonality in terms of the predominance of one grape variety, Grenache Blanc or what have you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to go down a nerd rabbit hole for a second. You go down more than I do, so I get to do it. You're giving me license to go there, Anthony. I think Rayas is also planted on sand. So when you look at Chateau Rayas, which is 100% Grenache, if memory serves, it's much lighter in color and has the same lifted, elegant quality, but it might be less sand and more the fact that it's all Grenache that gives it its femininity.
I think there's a lot. Rayas, from what I've heard, is a diseased vineyard. So it's virus. So they get no yield. It's a pretty wild place.
When you hear that, by the way, sometimes diseased vineyards, as they're gasping their last breath, give the best wine they ever gave in their lives. They're just like Anthony said, they can't absorb nutrients, so they die.
It's not a commercial wine in any way.
It's not a commercial wine and it's too expensive. So buy Fond du Loup instead. So tell us while we're, and this is where hopefully you've got enough quality wine marching through your veins, everyone, where you can speak up with which of these wines you liked or any questions you might have for Anthony. Just sort of free associate other wines you really enjoy that really touch you. I mean, we couldn't do 24 wines tonight, but this is a man who loves to taste and pay very close attention to it. And by the way, is going through the Master Sommelier program and is a Cracker Jack wine taster, if I do say so. And works hard at it. Oops, did I lose you? Did you lose internet? Oh, there
Who,
you are.
me?
Okay, no, you, yeah, I just wanted you to sort of free associate other wines that touch you.
Well, one more thing, I just want to thank everyone here because, you know, over the years, I feel like I learned a lot from all of the guests that I've served. So a lot of you have bought wine from me over the years, but you would teach me a lot. And part of, I think, what we like to do as professionals is listen to our guests and clients, and that's how we really learn. So thank you all for being here because you've been my teachers as well.
Now, before we forget, and then we can hang and still chat a little bit, we always tell you what our next virtual tasting is. And it took us a while to get it together because we decided to do our holiday sale, and you'll get a notification of that. That's going to run November 4th through, I have it here, hold on. Denny, you've got it memorized. And it runs November 4th through the 21st, is that correct?
No, 11th through the 21st.
Sorry, I knew I had it wrong. 11th through the 21st. And before
So
we
it's,
pivot
yeah.
back to Anthony, can you tell us a little bit about what this holiday tasting is? Because we did one last year too.
So this is this holiday wine sale will be 10 days as we did last year, and it'll end up on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And we're going to have a selection of wines from multiple areas as we have in the past, but I would say the overall emphasis would be a lot of Bordeaux. We've been blessed with a number of great vintages, and we have an excellent selection. We've been featuring 15s and 16s, which are in lesser supply now, and we're bringing in the 18s, and we were fortunate enough to find a fistful of 210s, which are a real treat for somebody looking for a mature red Bordeaux, and they're fairly reasonable, all things considered. We'll also have our typical selection of champagne, and then all the various varietals and a number of different of our regular regions where we have some South American wine this time, and you know, a selection of unique whites that are an interesting blend. But it's a very worthy tasting and one that we had a lot of fun with last year, and in a backdrop that we'd say hopefully is our last luxury sale, and next year we'll be back doing the in-person tasting. That's
Yes.
right.
But
Pour
because
you a
this one
glass
will
of
be
wine and
all,
sell it to you. That's right. So
we want to see everybody. This is going to be all online. And oops, I just.
we will do the preview on the night of the 11th.
Right.
And then it'll go live the same day.
I'm going to put the information about the dates in the chat room, but I want to ask Anthony, because no other questions are coming through yet. What, you know, you're coming on board just as we're about to enter a vertical climb in terms of growth. What excites you the most about our prospects, Anthony? I know that's a broad-based question, but what really made your heart go tick, tick, tick about taking this position?
Well, I think that in general, you know, wine is still on this upward climb in general, and it's this great, it's not just alcohol, it's something that's sort of philosophical, and it's more of a lifestyle thing. And I think that it's a way that we can connect with a lot of people. And frankly, I think that there's low-hanging fruit, pardon the pun. But I think that we understand how to do wine really well and how to serve the guest. And I think that frankly, there's not a lot of people that know how to do that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us, and it's going to be fun.
So what is a for sure? DC is a for sure, correct?
I don't know. I believe so.
I know
I'm still brand
a little
new.
bit, but right now there's one in Connecticut next year, and then we have Miami and Los Angeles. Hollywood, California,
Hollywood.
and that's in 23.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to Hollywood.
Well, you belong there. Yes, I would say
I
that.
don't belong there. Anyone else want to pipe up about what wines they enjoyed tonight? I'm typing in the chat room we have 3 more virtual tastings with winemaker guests coming up. Spain, Champagne, and Chateauneuf du Pape, actually, not on Charlotte, but Chateau de Pegau. So that's going to be cool.
I would just mention that's the first time I've ever tasted this Bandol from Gros Noir, and that was mentioned or recommended to our store by Travis, and it's really a remarkable glass of wine.
Yeah, it's not lesser by anybody's
An
measure.
aftertaste.
Just different.
Back of the throat taste. That was very interesting.
And Norman, who's not a lover of pink wines, really enjoyed it.
Anyone else have any faves? What are you drinking tonight, even if it's not one of our wines?
Yeah, Terry, what are you drinking? You got some Pinot Dani or some hipster shit?
I'm drinking a little Mongoose tonight.
Oh, look at that. What do you got, Daryl? Vilmar? Nice. Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm meeting Monica Samuels, our director of sake at an event in Wisconsin tonight. And
Cool.
I saw her was in Wisconsin on March 11th, 2020, because that's
Wow.
the country shut. So we had champagne that night. So she's on her way over right now. We're going to enjoy a bottle of Vimar.
That's fantastic. Tell her I said hello. I love your sake portfolio. It's the best.
We can be jealous. He's having great.
There she is, a
farmer
cameo
champagne.
appearance.
Okay, Mike Pfeiffer, are you still there? You're drinking something outlier. Make us jealous by showing us the bottles. You have it there?
Hold on, I'll get it.
Hey, Anthony, say
'Cause
hello.
I bet some of you don't even know
Hi.
this stuff exists.
Hi, Monica. I've never met you, but I'm a big fan of your sakes and what you've done.
Thank you. Hi, Madeline. We were on the Be Bold Veuve Clicquot webinar together a couple months ago.
Oh, thank you for remembering and good to see you.
It's great to see you too.
Thanks for supporting
Cool
Anthony.
people.
Okay, Mike is showing us. What have you got? Ridge Grenache Blanc. I didn't know this stuff existed.
Yes, it does.
He's faking it.
It is
That's a good-
fantastic.
Round through champagne. Once again.
There's not a lot of it, but we were able to, I think we'll be able to get some.
Do you have some at the store in Arbor West?
I think I'm gonna have some next week for sure.
Good to know.
I sure hope so, Mike. I love Ridge.
This is good, Phil. Really good.
I want to say a shout out to somebody whose name I haven't seen in a while, and I'm so pleased to see you. He's one of my original wine bar guests dating from my Rattlesnake Club days, and then Matt Prentice, and then Plum Market, and that's Paul Wilson. It's very nice to see you, Paul, even quietly in the background, because you're always well-mannered and, you know, you hide in plain sight, but I don't forget. I don't forget. Neither does Anthony. You know, I loved what you said, Anthony. I mean, if it weren't for guests, we'd just be lost in our own heads when it comes to wine. At least they make us, they keep us honest, right? And they keep our language normal on occasion. That's what I like.
Yep.
Any parting shot, anybody? Scott, are the two of you together? I've got Dave Smith actually here also. Dave and I go back to my very first job at La Fontaine in the basement of the Renaissance Center. And we're not going to say how many decades ago that was, but we look good.
Lori couldn't be here this evening. She was looking forward to seeing Anthony tonight. She's got a function this evening, but she said
Catering,
hello.
okay.
Catering function. She's
Scott, you
still
still
cooking.
drinking Barolo?
Yeah, you bet. Lot, if it's from Piedmont, I've got gobs of it.
Good.
He single-handedly is keeping the Piedmont economy going.
4 decades.
That's gonna cost a little bit.
I've got one parting shot. For my own opinion is that we have such a great crew of like knowledgeable, talented experts in the field of wine to
Thank
see
you for
names
thinking about me like that.
to be able to work with Rod and Denny and Mike and now Anthony. When I see the company in Madeline, you're amazing. And so I think that, in my opinion, it's just hard to beat what Plum Market has put together here. And we're so blessed in having this group of people. And it's like, I have to pinch myself. It's amazing. And, we can, collaborate and share and just make things go forward and upward.
Well said, Phil Lanuti, from the heart. Yay.
Thanks, Phil.
I think, no, that's great.
I want to give kudos to Plum Market too. We have met so many good friends at the wine tastings and continue our friendships through that. And it's been wonderful.
Robin.
That said, it's not the wine, it's the people.
Right.
It's the people. The wine helps, but the people
Yeah.
are the heart and soul of it. You all have a very warm fond hello from somebody many of you remember, Patrick Peterson.
Oh,
a dear friend of mine who is, he says he's in retirement, but he's keeping busier than he did when he was working full time. Don't forget, he's an artist and a carpenter, and he's helping all his friends do everything, but he misses you. And,
we miss him too.
And
We
I'll
miss
tell
him
him
too.
that. Very
Okay.
special soul. He's the greatest service professional I've worked with in my career. And you can put the entire list of master sommeliers in that category, and Patrick's at the top of it,
Yeah, I hope he's doing well, madam.
He's in good health. He's cheerful. He's just entered a new phase in his life, and he doesn't forget, but he's not gonna backstep. He doesn't miss the industry per se. He misses you.
We'd love to
He's on
see
to
him
the
at one of
next
these
adventure.
tastings. Okay.
I will tell him. What'd you say, Danny?
He's on to the next adventure.
He's on to the next adventure. Well,
And just one more comment, Madeline.
Yeah, please.
Anybody who shops the West Bloomfield store, if you haven't been there for a while, our new tasting area is about 99% complete and is stunning. So this is where we hope to gather next year. So if you do stop at West Bloomfield, stick your head in there. It's quite a remarkable renovation and is going to serve us well in the coming years.
I want to thank the Chicago people, almost 20 of you who came on tonight, because it really pulls our family together. And Anthony, I know you're not going to be able to come on every virtual tasting, but I'm going to be nudging you, AKA pushing you to come on occasionally to say hello, because I think
Madeline, tell him he's got no choice. If he doesn't appear, I'll come and shave his beard off.
Oh, Norm's
No, it's
got
like
my
when
back.
Madeline looked, when she just gives you the look and she said, it's optional. You don't have to be there.
Are you in Michigan now, Anthony, or are you still in Chicago?
We're in Michigan. We live in
Oh, okay.
Berkeley now.
Okay.
You've come back to civilization.
That's right. Salmon has returned.
So everyone, we're going to see you, hopefully, the Michiganders on, 2 weeks from today for our kickoff of the holiday tasting. And we've got 3 more winemakers coming on with us in December. So we'll let the Chicago people know too. Thank you, everyone. Big virtual hug for welcoming Anthony to our work family.
Talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great to see everyone.
Charles, Anthony. Did you
Thank you,
notice?
Norman.
What did you say, Norm? I missed it.
He was saying Totzins without anything in his glass.
Oh, well, we'll have to fix that.
We'll have to fix it.
Have a good
Thanks for
evening,
coming back to
everyone.
Plum,
You
Anthony.
too. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming back. It's good to see you.
Thanks,
again.
Eric. Eric, what are you drinking?
Fine.
Okay.
I won't end it. What are you drinking, Eric? Did you go away?
Okay.
Can you
Did
see
we lose
it?
him? Oh, what is
What
it?
is
It's
that?
Santorini.
It's Santorini.
Santorini.
Yeah, I can't
Santorini.
pronounce this. Acra Chrysos.
Madeline can read it.
And
Can
Michelle's
you-
drinking
Can you
this.
spell it for me?
AKRACHRYSSOS.
Smith.
Acra Chrysos,
then,
which means far and golden, but I don't know what it refers to. Is that the producer? Is it Acítico?
It's 3 indigenous grapes.
So probably Acítico, Atiri, and something else.
Idani.
Aidani, bravo. This is why it's useful to have people around who are studying for the Master's Sommelier exam, because they are little walking, talking, and Oxford companions. I love it. Chin chin.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to try a
thanks,
red from
everyone.
Santorini. Have you ever had that?
No, have you?
No, but it exists.
No, I know it does. And I know Doug Frost has talked about it, but I've never had one. Okay, wait a minute. You talked about drinking a lot, and I always sound like some sort of bloody teetotaler person. Okay, the first time I ever got buzzed, are you ready for this? Please don't put this on social media. It was on Santorini. And it was so safe at the time because these were the days before it was a tourist haven, right? And our parents would put us on the ferry, my 3 girlfriends, and we would get off the boat on one of the islands, in this case, Santorini. And we'd go to the kiosk and the cop would tell us what houses were taking in boarders for $2 a night. And the whole town would take care of the young Americans. Nobody was going to bother us, right? Utterly matriarchal society. So I remember drinking a slightly sweet white I don't even remember what little township. There's like, what, 4 towns on Santorini, and giggling in the middle of the town square and then going swimming. Right? So that was my first exposure to feeling of the buzz of alcohol, because living in Greece, we could drink wine. We just never thought to drink enough to the point where you'd feel it, So that's
Pretty cool.
it's my, pre-college days.
Your debauched youth.
Yeah, my debauched youth, right? Well, then I became a hippie in Ann Arbor, and that's another story.
Oh, that's good.
But I worked at the Lord Fox, which was a great haven for German wines. Okay, Anthony, I got a question for you. I told you the first time, one of the first wines of note I ever drank. How about you? What was your first wine where you had an aha moment? Where it touched you?
That's a good question.
Either the smell or the flavor, or, where you went, neat stuff. Maybe I should pay attention.
I mean, I remember the first wine I learned how to drink, and it was Pairings Côte de Rhône.
Really? Okay.
Well, because I never understood how to drink wine. Like, it was the first one I think that I had like with food, and I think I was like, okay, I get this.
How old were you? Were you like in your late teens or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You're 6 years old, but
I remember Bordeaux with my Uncle Norm, who's not on the call anymore, but
no, he went to some big deal restaurant.
but
in
he would always
Charleston.
have like classified growth Bordeaux around, and that was a treat at a young age.
I was at the London Chop House. I put my nose in the glass of 1966 Palmer that the then owner, Max Pincus, insisted we open for the whole staff for Christmas. And I put my nose in the decanter and I almost dropped the damn thing, because in that instant, I understood why collectors collect. The smell that was, and I've been a sommelier for like 10 years, right? But I didn't get it, that just, now I understand why people chase that ethereal, magical aroma of great wine. It's making me hungry. I have to go eat something now. Everyone, you're special people, your friends. Anthony, I mirror the comment earlier. Thank you for coming back to Michigan. But
Thank you. Thank
that
you.
embraces the Chicago friends too. They just have had you for what? 6 years now, 7 years?
Almost 9.
Okay, there you go. Our turn.
Time goes by. Great to be back. Madeline, thank you for hosting this beautiful event and allowing me to talk too much. It'll be the last one. It'll be your show from now on.
No.
And thank you all for being here. It's great to see everybody, friends, family, past guests, everybody along the way. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.